It's always interesting when a new entry in a series releases that is a huge departure from its predecessors. Ni no Kuni 2, for example, took all the charm and character of the first game and threw it out the window, instead producing a soulless and tedious action game. No More Heroes, Travis Strikes Again, throws away the hack-and-slash arena combat, replacing it with a side-scroller, top-down, arcadey action game. Often derided as the low point of the series, I still had to see for myself what this game was all about. So does it stick the landing, or should it have stayed in its lane? You know what always does stick the landing? These videos. So go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Narratively, Travis Strikes Again feels very on brand. Travis has once again given up the assassin lifestyle, and now lives out in a van down by the river. Badman, the father of Bad Girl, who some may remember from the first game as an assassin that Travis killed, finds him with a death ball in hand, seeking revenge. Turns out a death ball is a game developed for the Death Drive Mark II video game console, and Travis of course happens to have one. The console wakes up, syncs with the death ball, and sucks both Travis and Badman into the game. Turns out, if you can find and beat all 6 of the games made for the console, you're granted any one wish, meaning Badman will be able to bring back his daughter to life. So of course they team up for wacky hijinks. Like I said, pretty on brand for the series and for the creator. In the time between the games that you play through, the story plays out in a sort of text-based adventure-type visual novel. Usually the story just has Travis going out somewhere to find the next death ball with his cat, who can talk now. If you're willing to truly buy into this universe that has been created in this series, I think you'll actually enjoy the narrative quite a lot. Of course, if you weren't on board for the first 2 No More Heroes games, this is not going to grip you. You're going to be lost for sure. But if you enjoyed those previous games and their stories, and how the story is acted out and presented, I think you'll love this game. The story and script is ridiculous, arguably insane. I mean, if you showed it to someone with no idea of the series or its creator, they would definitely look at you a little strangely and back up to a safe distance. But I loved it. Now, the games themselves that you play through actually feel fairly unique in setting, tone, and style. The story and games present homage after homage to classic game and film tropes. The gameplay itself is really basic. It's essentially a button masher. You run around either holding down the quick attack or take the time to tap out a heavy attack combo. The game gives you 4 ability slots which you can use pretty much on cooldown to take out wave after wave of enemy. It's extremely mindless, but the overall presentation of the game really keeps it engaging, especially thanks to the soundtrack. The music in the background is just so good. It fits its game so well. So when you combine the music with the straightforward gameplay, it's actually really easy to kind of get into that zone and blast through one of the death balls. This is really one of those rare games that is much more than the sum of its parts. Objectively, no. This is not a good game. It's repetitive, it's tedious, the enemies are just sponges, the platforming is very imprecise, which is made much worse by the fact that I had the game crash on me about 5 or so times during the course of my playthrough, costing me minutes if not hours of time. But in spite of all that, I loved the game. And I kept wanting to go back to it just to see what wild thing would happen next, or what game would be represented by the next death ball, or to read about Travis's wild globe-trotting adventure trying to find it. All this praise aside, I do have to note that the game itself is sort of designed to be replayed. As you go through, you gain XP, which you use to level up your character, and the max level is 20, and I got just over halfway there in a single playthrough. They do want you going back through the different games A lot of the achievements try to get you to go through a few times. There's additional activities that you can do. I did none of those. You can unlock additional characters. The game comes with co-op from the start, and I think was probably designed to be played in co-op, with one person controlling Travis and the other person controlling Badman. I don't have friends. I didn't do co-op. I didn't play as anybody but Travis, and I don't want to. For me, this was just a single run-through kind of game. I don't know if the different characters offer different experiences. I can't imagine they do, outside of, I'm sure, some of the abilities are different, as there were a couple that were unique to each of the characters. But the problem is, the game is simple, and once you've experienced the story, the shine of it really wears off. It does not sustain itself past that initial playthrough, going through the initial narrative. And to be fair, the game took me about 10 hours to beat, which I think is pretty acceptable for this kind of a game. This is not a game to go into cold, though. If you have not played the first two No More Heroes games or have no experience with Suda51, it's not going to work for you. But as a stopgap between 2 and 3, and a way to continue the story, I think this is one that any fan of the series needs to experience. For a final rating, I would give the presentation a 4 out of 5, the story a 3.5 out of 5, the gameplay a 2.5 out of 5, for an overall rating of 4 out of 5. But for value, I'd say grab it on sale. It's short, boring, repetitive, mindless. But what do you think? Do you hate this game? I know a lot of people do. Do you like it as much as I did? Let me know. Leave a comment down below. Be sure to like the video if you liked the video, and I will see you all with the next one.